This is draft season, part 2 of our draft review. John Schmeelk, Tony Pauline with you. We looked at the NFC on part 1 yesterday. Make sure you're 2 days ago, whenever it gets posted. I don't know. Go check it out on Giants.com, the Giants app, the Giants YouTube channel. Draft season is presented by Moody's, a proud partner of the New York Football Giants. Decode risk, unlock opportunity. Learn more at Moody's.com. A lot of interesting stuff in the AFC, Tony. Some quarterback controversy. We'll talk about all of that and more right here in the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. All right, Tony, AFC West, good place to start.
Absolutely.
Let's do it. All right. Denver Broncos, they have 7 picks, Tony. I'm going to list all the picks, folks. Tony's going to pick out some of the featured players in the group that he thinks are important, that really makes a statement about the draft class. All right. Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas at pick 20. My guy, R.J. Harvey, got into the second round, pick 60. Next to Alvin Kamara for Sean Payton right there. Look out. Pat Bryant, I thought that was a little bit early at 74 out of Illinois. I thought some better wide receivers are still on the board. I think they picked him over Jalen Noel, which I thought was crazy. Savion Jones, really good pass rusher on the defensive line with pick 101. Q Robinson, a super athletic edge player that was a special teams ace at pick 4. He has some promise. Punter. Punters are people too. Jeremy Croshaw out of Florida. And then tight end Caleb Lohner out of Utah, Tony. I thought Denver got some really good value early.
This was probably my least favorite draft.
Okay, why?
For a couple of reasons. Number one, Jahdae Barron in round 1, okay, but there were receivers available to him, and Omarion Hampton was available to him. And they, I know you like R.J. Harvey.
You don't need Omarion Hampton when you can get R.J. Harvey, Tony.
Again, Harvey, I thought he was a little bit early. I know you like him. He's fast. He's explosive. Pat Ryan, I would agree with you. Early. Savion Jones was early. A lot of early guys. Q Robinson in the 4th round. Q Robinson's production is awful. I mean, yeah, he's a size speed guy.
He was mostly a special teams player at Alabama.
Because he could never produce on the field.
Right.
I mean,
I agree with that.
A guy like that in the 4th round, again, I can't kill it, but I think they selected guys 2 to 3 rounds earlier than they should have been.
Hey, this is Sean Payton's modus operandi, right? He finds guys that he likes.
Right.
Be damned what the rest of the league thinks about them.
Bo Nix last year, right?
Sometimes he's right. Sometimes he's wrong. We'll see what this draft class looks like in a few years. All right, let's go to the Kansas City Chiefs, Tony. This might be my favorite draft class. I think it's just really strong. They get Josh Simmons, who, if he's healthy, is probably the best offensive tackle in the class at pick 32. Omar Norman Lott, man, put him with Chris Jones in passing situations inside a defensive tackle. Whew. Ashton Gillott out of Louisville, we've talked about him a ton as a defensive end. I think he'll go really well in that system. Steve Spagnuolo will love him. Noah Williams, that was a 3rd-round pick. Noah Williams, their second, 3rd-rounder. You're a big fan of his. Cornerback out of Cal. Long ball skills. Jalen Royals, a lot of people had him as a 2nd, 3rd-round pick out of Utah State in round number 4. Jeffrey Bassa, a smart former safety, linebacker in round 5. And then one of my guys, Brashard Smith, drops all the way to round 7. The Chiefs loves to put receiving backs. And, go back to Andy Reid when he was with the Eagles back in the day. Charlie Gardner, right? Guys like that. You get them on the field, these pass-catching, running backs on 3rd downs. That's what Brashard Smith is. So I thought the Chiefs had an absolutely phenomenal draft.
I think the problem with this draft is the same problem that the Eagles had. Too many talented players, too few spots on the roster to fit these players.
And that's a good problem to have, by the way.
Yeah, and Simmons, he's not going to be playing for a while. He may not play till November because of the torn patella. I had him mocked for the longest time to the Chiefs in round 1. I foolishly took him out. The Chiefs proved me to be the fool, so we'll see what happens. Omar Norman Lott, one of the best interior pass rushers in this draft, quick, explosive guy. Ashton Gillott fits their system, a smaller guy with an engine that never stops. I was a big fan of Jeffrey Bassa in the 5th round. I mean, he is a tough, athletic, sideline-to-sideline linebacker. I'm surprised he took this long to get off the board.
No question about it. And again, I just think really nice job by the Chiefs there. All right, let's go to the Raiders. I believe I saw someone say this is the largest draft class in Raiders history with 11 picks. If it's not, I apologize, Raider fans. Ashton Genty at 6th overall. He falls right into their laps. guys, death taxes and Pete Carroll picking running backs, baby. He got the best one in the draft to pick number 6. Jack Besh, second round at 58. Darian Porter, Caleb Rogers, the guard out of Texas Tech, in round 3. He had a nice week at the Senior Bowl down there in Mobile. Charles Grant, developmental offensive tackle out of William and Mary, too. Then you go Dante Thorne, one of your guys, Tony, in round 4, the wide receiver. Tonka Hemingway, an upfield pass rusher at South Carolina in round 4 as well. J.J. Pegues, a fun player out of Ole Miss in round 6. Tommy Malo out of Montana State, the wide receiver. Cam Miller, quarterback out of North Dakota State, just hanging out in like the beautiful American West here. And then Cody Lindenberg out of Minnesota, a linebacker. So a lot of players in this group, Tony. Try to narrow it down for me.
And I think they did a good job. I mean, they've got holes on the offensive line. They may have a problem with Colton Miller. They take Caleb Rogers, a college tackle who projects the guard. Some people think he's going to play center. And then Charles Grant, listed as an offensive tackle, needs some work on his in the weight room, I should say. Is he a guard? Is he a tackle? He's an athletic blocker with upside. Ashton Genty, we beat that horse to death. Terrific player. I like the way it was a yin and yang with the receivers that they took. Jack Beck is more your tough contested catch guy. Dante Thornton has got tremendous upside. I had him as a 3rd-round pick. They took him in the 4th round. He keeps getting better and better. Ran 4.3 at 6'4" at the combine. And Tonka Hemingway, again, they addressed the interior of that defensive line position. As I mentioned right before the draft, there's a problem with Christian Wilkins' foot. He may need another procedure. They added 2 potential pass rushers on the inside there with Tonka Hemingway and J.J. Pegues.
All right, let's go to the Los Angeles Chargers. Tony, 9 picks for them. Omarion Hampton falls right into their lap in round 1. Jim Harbaugh is going to love running that dude. And Najee Harris is there too.
One-year deal, though.
What's that, 1-year deal exactly? And my guess is that it won't be long before Omarion Hampton takes over the 18-carry-a-game role from Najee Harris. Good pick. If you guys are picking rookie fantasy players this year, he should be your guy right after Ashton Genty. Trey Harris, round 2, pick 55, kind of a bigger-bodied wide receiver. I thought he's a good contrast to what they have at Ladd McConkey, so it's a kind of a good combination of wide receivers there. Jamari Caldwell, the big defensive tackle out of Oregon, who can actually move pretty well. I thought Kyle Kennard in round 4 to South Carolina was a nice value pick, good football player. Keandre Lambert-Smith out of Auburn, along with Oronde Gadsden out of Syracuse, tight end and wide receiver, round 5. Branson Taylor, guard out of Pittsburgh in round 6 with R.J. Mickens, safety out of Clemson. He's also a bit of a slot corner as well. And then you have Trickweze Bridges.
Trickweze.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow, you're correcting me on a pronunciation, Tony? How about that? Wonders never cease. I was not familiar with the player. I'm not going to lie. 7th-round cornerback out of Florida.
Hampton will be their featured ball carrier moving forward. Fits the Harbaugh system. Trey Harris, solid pass catcher. I'm surprised he went in the 2nd round. Keandre Lambert-Smith, I thought, was good value in round 5. He's long. He's explosive. He's fast. Had a falling out in Penn State, really was kind of up and down in the Auburn system last year. I think Oronde Gadsden was great value in round 5. He can develop. He is your downfield threat at the tight end position. I think he was a tremendous sleeper. Trickweze Bridges. I saw Trickweze Bridges when he played his first college game at Oregon against Ohio State, and he blew me away. He was playing safety for the Oregon Ducks that day. Had a great game against the Ohio State Buckeyes. He's been up and down since. They used him at corner last year at Florida. He showed flashes, but not a lot of consistency. He's a size, speed guy that has shown ability. If he doesn't make the active roster, he's a practice squad guy with a lot of upside.
Absolutely. Again, I think the AFC West had some nice drafts. And again, I'm with you, Tony. I think it was hard to find, and we talked about it at the start of our last show. Hard to find any drafts where you really scratch your head. Like, well, I don't know what that team was doing. There were so many good players in this draft class in those middle rounds. I think it was hard to miss, and I think most of the teams did a really nice job. All right, let's go to the AFC North. Talk about teams that always do a nice job in the draft. Baltimore Ravens had 11 selections in this draft. Let's go through them real quick, Tony, and then you can break them down in the AFC North. Malky Starks at 27. He'll go with Kyle Hamilton. Mike Green dropped all the way to the end of the 2nd round. You know, since the Ravens drafted him, he's going to be squeaky clean now, and he's going to have a great NFL career, first-round talent. Emory Jones in round 3, the offensive tackle, maybe guard. We'll see where he plays out of LSU. Teddy Buchanan, the linebacker out of guard in round 4. Carson Vincent, who had a nice nice week at the Senior Bowl when we were down there out of Alabama A&M in round 5. 4 round 6 selections, thanks to a bunch of comp picks. Bilal Cohn, the Western Michigan corner. Tyler Loop, kicker out of Arizona. LeJante Wester, one of those Colorado wide receivers. Aeneas Peebles, a good defensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. And then Roger Longerbeam, a cornerback out of Rutgers, who had a nice week at the Shrine Bowl when we were down there. Fast guy, smart guy too. And then Garrett Dellinger, the guard out of LSU in round 7.
Filled a lot of holes here. I think Malachi Starks will be a week 1 starter as a rookie. Terrific free safety, go sideline to sideline. Mike Green, I mean, it was the off-the-field issues from several years ago that pushed him down draft boards, but he's an explosive edge rusher in the mold that the Ravens like. You go down, the 2 offensive linemen are kind of different from each other. Emory Jones is a tough, small area lineman, while Vincent is more athletic. He's got some upside. I like the Teddy Buchanan pick. I think Longerbeam, as you mentioned, is going to be a surprise with the 6th round. Could be a dime back. He's got decent length. He's an exceptional athlete with speed. He's a dime back special teams player with return potential.
No question about it. All right, let's jump over to the Cincinnati Bengals, Tony. Just 6 picks for them. They made all of them. Shamar Stewart in round 1. You talk about the Texas A&M players that played a little bit heavier than they did, than maybe they should have. He's one of them. We talked about that on the NFC show earlier in the week. At pick number 17, they needed a pass rusher. They get one. Demetrius Knight, the older linebacker out of South Carolina, but a violent hitter, good player. Yeah. You could tell the Bengals really are trying to help trenches on offense and then defense in general. Dylan Fairchild, 3rd-round player out of Georgia. You're a big Fairchild guy, right?
Yep.
He goes in round 3. Barrett Carter, the linebacker, off-ball guy out of Clemson, in round 4. Jalen Rivers, I thought that's pretty good value in round 5 for him as a guard tackle. Probably more of a guard, but he played tackle in college. And then Taj Brooks, who he just doesn't wow you, but he's a good running back.
Yeah,
he's tough. He tested better, I think, than people thought, and a really good, solid running back for the Bengals in round 6.
Shamar Stewart, he's a boomer bust type prospect. As I've written about and mentioned, there's a lot of comparisons to Vernon Golston, who was selected by the New York Jets as the 6th or 8th pick, whatever it was. Great athlete, not a lot of production on the football field. I like both linebackers that they got. You mentioned Demetrius Knight. He is a violent but smart and tough linebacker that goes sideline to sideline. Barrett Carter went back for another season at Clemson after receiving 2nd-round grades. Didn't play very well. Falls into the 4th round. But again, he's a smaller one-gap type of linebacker. I agree with you that Jalen Rivers was exceptional value in the 5th round. Could be a starter, at the very least, an inexpensive swing offensive lineman that can back up at tackle or guard.
No question about it. I think some good players there for the Bengals. Let's go to the Browns, their fellow Ohioans. Mason Graham, after they trade out of the 2nd pick, and we should talk about that trade, Tony. They get Mason Graham at pick number 5. Carson Schlesinger, linebacker out of UCLA, pick 33. Fun player to watch. 3 picks later, one of the picks they acquired in that trade to go from 2 to 5. Quinshon Judkins, who I think is a great Nick Chubb replacement. Nice, tough, gritty, between the tackles type of runner. Harold Fannin Jr. at the top of round 3. I don't know how they're going to use him and Njoku together. They're kind of similar to me, but maybe they're going to run all the 12 personnel. We'll see. Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback out of Oregon in round number 3, surprisingly ahead of Shedeur Sanders with that pick. Then Dylan Sampson, a great speed back. That's going to be a 1-2 punch with Judkins. Yeah. I think that's going to be more of a 50-50 timeshare than a lot of people think. Sampson's a good player. And then the Browns say, let's go quarterback again. Then they select Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round out of Colorado. Let's get to the quarterback stuff second, Tony, because there's a lot to talk about with that. Right. Let's start with the trade. The Browns decide to get out of Travis Hunter, go to 2 to 5. They pick up a 2nd-round pick this year and a 1st-round pick in next year's draft to make that move. I frankly, once you got to 5, I would have been on the phone with the Bears, who, tell me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that they were hot and heavy for Ashton Genty. Right. I would have moved again and got even more picks and then picked a really good player at 10. But the Browns stuck at 5, took Mason Graham. Your thoughts on the Hunter trade?
Well, first thing is, it was a haul by the Browns.
Oh, they did really well.
For a guy that, I like Travis Hunter. He's my number 2 rated player in the draft, but and he's going to be an impactful player for the Jaguars. But I don't know he's the type of impact player that you're giving up all those sorts of picks for. As far as your comment that they should have traded down, I think that the Bears are trying to trade up on the cheap. They were trying to trade up, but they didn't want to give away a lot. And the Browns probably said, you know what? We got another early second here. We got a first round next year. The hell with it. Let's stay with the pick. We're not going to give our selection away to move out of 10. And they got one of the safer players in the draft, Mason Graham. Now, they said that the Browns were looking to improve their pass rush, and they just did from the interior of the defensive line. Carson Schlesinger was told he was potential late first-round choice. He went with the first pick of round 2. After Jihad Campbell, the best off-ball linebacker in this draft. The only thing is Carson Schlesinger enters his rookie season without injury questions, unlike Jihad Campbell. You're perfect. What you said about the Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson 1-2 punch is right on. I mean, Quinshon Judkins, as we saw sparingly during the regular season, but especially in the college football playoffs, is a violent runner, sort of a Cam Scatterboo type, although he's probably a little bit quicker than Cam Scatterboo. I agree with you about Fannin. I thought Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, in my opinion, it was interesting. It was way early for a guy that they want as a backup quarterback, because that's what he is. And then Shedeur Sanders, we'll see what happens with that choice.
All right, give me your perspective as someone that has tracked Shedeur Sanders for multiple years now throughout the draft process. You've seen how he's been talked about, what happened to him on draft night. Break it down, Tony. Give me the inside scoop. You talk to more people than anyone. How'd this whole thing go down? Why did he not get selected until the 5th pick in the draft?
There's not one single reason. And I mean, all these conspiracy theories and, that the league wanted to teach him a lesson, it was all absurd. It was all absurd. You got to go back before the season when scouts gave Shedeur Sanders a mid-second round grade. So coming into the season, he wasn't even viewed by the league, by the scouting services that the teams rely on, as a first-round prospect. He was a second-round prospect. Now, quarterbacks are, or as we've seen time and time again, overdrafted. Then you go through the 2024 season, where it really wasn't that great for Shedeur Sanders. It wasn't much better than it was in 2023. We saw a lot of the same mistakes. Throwing with poor fundamentals, holding the ball too long and taking bad sacks because he tried to improvise too much, running in reverse when he's being pressured, putting the ball up for grabs with a arm that is nice. He doesn't have a great arm. And sometimes that's tough to coach out of a quarterback, the improvisation and the fundamentals. And the fact is the way he tried to throw himself out of trouble on Saturday, he can't do that on Sunday. So that's another issue. His pre-draft process, as far as I'm concerned, was a disaster. And the pre-draft process is used by teams as a precursor to what's going to happen moving forward. We saw the debacle at the Shrine Bowl. He's going to show up at the Shrine Bowl. Everyone's excited. He comes out one day in street clothes, walks across the field, does a press conference, and that's it. Never threw a pass. Never threw a pass and never tested during the combine. At this point in time, as we learned at the Shrine Bowl, Cam Ward was far and away the number 1 quarterback in the draft. So you know that Shedeur Sanders really should have, been more open to basically doing what scouts wanted him to do. Part of the problem is they never hired an agent. So there was no agent there to navigate him through the waters. He doesn't throw at the combine. He doesn't test. He's on the sidelines.
He also didn't play in either of the All-Star games.
Well, that's what I said.
Right,
the Shrine Bowl,
exactly.
He just walked across the field. And, when you look at it, every other quarterback selected before Shedeur Sanders, not named Cam Ward, competed in either the Combine, the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, or both in many instances. And here's Shedeur Sanders, as I reported from the Combine, with falling draft stock. He chooses to do nothing. And the interviews, as we've learned, have rubbed people, some teams, the wrong way. I'm not going to get into it because I wasn't at those interviews, but we know it rubbed some people the wrong way. And then, whether you want to admit it or not, there was the Dion factor. Because as somebody said to me, when you draft Shedeur, you're drafting his father. And his father is very outspoken, which people don't like. Granted, he's standing up for his son. I completely understand that, but...
Yeah, I don't think Dion did anything wrong either, to be honest with you. But it's just his mere presence there that's the factor.
It's not that he did anything wrong. It's what's going to happen in the future.
Oh, I get it.
He has the bully pulpit as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes. And inevitably... reporters are going to be sticking microphones in his face saying, what do you think about the way they're handling your son? What do you think about, should your son be playing? And Dion, being as outspoken as he did, would be open to criticizing teams. And teams didn't want to deal with that stress, with that potential, because once Dion criticizes the way his son is being handled, it's going to get back to the team, and they're going to have to answer to it.
And I think too, Tony, the way the media talked about it, and we tuned into draft coverage when we were done on Thursday night. I watched Friday afternoon.
Right.
I had to turn it off.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't Shedeur Sanders' fault. I feel sorry for the kid that he had to sit there and go through all this. I'm hope the Browns are a good spot for him. I hope he succeeds. He's a talented player. Right. You had a first-round grade on him, right? And even if he's a second-round player, those guys often get pushed into the first round. So, I hope it works out for him. But I think what teams were worried about too, and we had a caller that called up to one of our shows, James and George, he's a good caller, and he said, well, Shedeur Sanders, why don't the Giants take him, right, with like their 4th round pick or something like that? And the point I made was that with him at the quarterback position, one specifically, but then with Shedeur specifically, once he's in the building, he's going to suck all the oxygen out of the room. Yep. And it's not his fault.
Right.
Not his fault.
It's his name.
The media will make him the bigger story.
Right.
And every time something goes wrong, he's going to have a huge press conference in his locker as the backup quarterback. He's going to have to be perfect in what he says because the attention's going to be there. And while a team, and you made this point with the Browns, they're very comfortable with Dylan Gabriel because of his personality that he's going to be a really good backup quarterback for a long time. I think they're worried if Shedeur Sanders, because of, again, the media attention that he gets, which, again, is not his fault. It's not his fault. He didn't do anything wrong with that in that regard. They feel like the distraction part of it is going to be not worth what you're going to get out of a guy who maybe you either view as a backup or view as a guy that might develop. If you're not going to pick him as a starter, once you got past the second round, you're not really picking guys as starting quarterbacks anymore. You're picking guys as developmental quarterbacks.
The media coverage was just not the past 3 days. I mean, it was the past 3 months. I'm in the gym every morning. They have ESPN on. And it was constantly, will Shedeur Sanders go to the New York Giants? Will Shedeur Sanders? It was nonstop.
All ESPN is Cowboys, Lakers, Shedeur Sanders. And those are the 3 topics every time.
And the thing is, the name is what drew the media to the nonstop coverage. I had said if his name was John Schmeelk or Tony Pauline, they wouldn't care. Charles Davis, who is one of my favorite football analysts, I watched him on Sunday. I was like, this guy should be a lead analyst in a primetime game.
And he is going to be in college football starting in 2 years, which will be fun.
He's one of the nicest guys in the world.
We love
you
Charles.
Ever met him. You wish he was one of your relatives. He basically echoed that on NFL Network, and he kind of compared what happened to Shedeur Sanders to Sam Howell. Sam Howell, the former North Carolina quarterback, at one point in time, we all thought coming off the 2020 season, potential top 10 pick, did not play well in 2021, ended up, people thought day 2 pick, he landed in the 5th round. And Charles Davis said, no one paid attention to this precipitous drop down draft boards because his name was Sam Howell. Everybody paid attention to it because it was Shedeur Sanders. And here's the thing with here's the difference between, you said everything's going to be on, all the focus is going to be on Shedeur Sanders. Jackson Dart was a 1st round pick by the New York Giants, a second 1st round pick. No one will pay attention to Jackson Dart because they don't expect him to play, and he was the second 1st round pick. Everyone's going to pay attention to Abdul Carter. Even though Shedeur Sanders was a 5th round pick in Cleveland, and he was the second quarterback taken,
he'll get more attention than Jackson Dart will.
He'll probably get more attention than the Browns' 1st round pick, Mason Graham.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, you're not wrong about that.
It's not ending, and you're right. Shedeur Sanders, they made mistakes through the pre-draft process. I think they should have been more open to throwing at the Shrine Bowl, throwing at the Combine, things like that. But like I said, they didn't have a agent to help them navigate the waters. That was their choice. But again, all these media are just going to continually to draw to him. All these conspiracies were absurd. Someone told me earlier in the week, hey, a source, the Giants are taking him at 3. I was like, that's ridiculous. Someone called me right before day 3, and I heard, hey, the league is going to make an example of him. They're going to make him Mr. Irrelevant. That was equally absurd. We'll see what happens here. It's all in his hands now. He's got talent. The one thing about Sanders, we pick apart his game. The league likes the fact that he is intelligent. He doesn't throw bad interceptions.
Yeah.
He processes
protects
things
the ball
very well. I love the fact that, especially in 2023, when Colorado needed a big drive late in the game, he was able to deliver. Give him credit for that. So there are a lot of good aspects that you can build upon.
No, he's absolutely a good player. Look, if the Giants would have traded up to 23 and picked Shedeur Sanders, I would have understood that pick. That would have been fine. I thought that would have been fine value the same way it was for Jackson Dart. I would have zero problem with that. They decided to go with Jackson Dart instead. He's a tough player, and I thought I don't know if you listened to heard any of his conference call with the media after he got drafted with the Browns.
I did not.
He sounded like a kid that had been humbled a little bit, but he's once I walked out of here on after round 1 on Thursday night, and then on Friday night I saw I wasn't picked in the second round. At that point I just wanted an opportunity. And I want to play football. I want to get on the grass with these guys, and I want to compete and earn what I can get. And he's going to have the opportunity now with the Browns in a fairly wide-open quarterback room. There's a lot of guys in there, but there's no one that's in there where you're like, all right, well, this is our starter for X number of games or whatever. He's going to have the chance.
Flacco's there for a year. Deshaun Watson's on his way out.
And it's the last year of Pickett's rookie contract too, right?
I don't think Pickett's a factor. I think Pickett was a necessity to fill a hole. I don't think they really expect much on Pickett. So really moving forward, all he's got to do is beat Dylan Gabriel, and he has all the tools to beat Dylan Gabriel.
Yep. So we'll see if he can do it, and I hope he succeeds. All right, let's go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had 7 picks in this draft, Tony. A very Steelers-y draft. Derek Harmon, the great value at 21, a defensive tackle. Caleb Johnson, he'll be a nice combination with Warren at running back, and 3rd-round pick at 83. I thought that was good value for him. Jack Sawyer, a very Steelers-y player, linebacker out of Ohio State. I thought round 4 was very good value for Jack Sawyer. I thought he was a better player than that. Yaya Black, some work to do, but very big, physical, athletic defensive tackle. Will Howard in the 6th round of Ohio State. Carson Bruner and Dante Kent, linebacker and corner in round 7.
Real good value, I believe, in each round. Derek Harmon fell because of injuries. And it's not one injury. It's a lot of little things that led to his fall. People thought he was a top 15 pick. Fits that 3-man line. Caleb Johnson, definitely a Steelers type of back. Jack Sawyer, definitely a Steelers type of player. I mean, a guy who goes nonstop, not the greatest athlete in the world, but makes plays. Yaya Black has got tremendous upside. He's just never really hit his stride and has just shown flashes. Will Howard, I think, was very telling with the Shedeur Sanders issue that we just talked about. They take Will Howard over Shedeur Sanders. And then Carson Bruner, I was shocked he went this late. I would be shocked if he doesn't make the Steelers roster. A tremendous off-ball linebacker.
No question about it. All right, let's jump now to the AFC South. We'll pick up the pace. We had to spend a lot of time on the quarterback thing, guys, so we had to do it. I know it's a big story. I wanted to get all the Tony's great info on it, so we'll put the pedal to the metal here on the last 2 divisions and 8 teams. All right, let's go to the AFC South, Tony. Texans 9 picks. They traded out of the first round, as I mentioned, for the Giants to select Jackson Dart. Jaden Higgins at pick 34. Ariante Ursary, their second round pick at 48. I thought that was good, pretty good value for both those guys. Love Jalen Nola, pick 79. I had him ranked higher than that. I think that was the zone you had him in, Tony, in round 3. Jalen Smith, cornerback USC at pick 97. Woody Marks, his teammate, the running back in 116 in the 4th round. And then in the 2 6th-round picks, 2 7th-round picks, safety Jalen Reed, Penn State, quarterback Graham Mertz, Florida, Keontae Hamilton, defensive tackle Rutgers, and Luke Lachey, tight end out of Iowa with the 2nd, 7th-round pick.
The first 3 picks made this draft for me. Jaden Higgins, a big-bodied possession, a contested catch receiver who ran faster than expected. They just got to teach him to play to that speed.
Talk about the size with him and Nico Collins outside together. Whew.
Then Jalen Noel, the smaller guy, he needs space to work. He struggles in contested throw situations, but if you get him in space, he's lethal. Ursary had fallen because of they said he wasn't the hardest worker. I heard he didn't follow through. He's got tremendous upside, and they need an offensive lineman there. I also like Luke Lachey in the 7th round. He's a guy who, off of the 2022 film, we thought, wow, this is going to be the next great tight end to come out of Iowa. Was injured in 2023, spent most of the year on the sidelines. If they get him back to where he was previously, it was a home run selection.
Okay, let's jump over to the Indianapolis Colts. Tyler Warren falls to them at 14. Tony, the tight end out of Penn State. JT Tuamalo, I think one of the safer picks in this draft. He's going to be a really good edge player, strong player, big, long arms. Justin Wally, cornerback out of Minnesota in round 3. Jalen Travis. And those are the two. When I talk about cornerbacks getting pushed up, Jalen Smith and Justin Wally were two of the quarterbacks I was thinking about at the back of round 3, because it was just a very shallow group, in my opinion, at least. Round 4, Jalen Travis, offensive tackle, Iowa State. Developmental guy. You might have to move inside. Round 5, I love the DJ Giddens pick. I think that's really good value for them as a backup running back out of Kansas State. Riley Leonard, the quarterback out of Notre Dame. Very much in that Richardson, Daniel Jones mold, where big-bodied and can run a little bit. I thought that was interesting. Tim Smith, solid defensive tackle out of Alabama. And then Hunter Wohler out of Wisconsin, the linebacker in round 7.
Riley Leonard in that Richardson mold, and that he's probably, you could say he's a better athlete than he is a quarterback, and he's allowed to go learn to become a passer. Tyler Warren fills the need at tight end. They were going tight end in round 1, whichever one was there. Tiamaloa is a terrific edge rusher. Keep an eye on the 4th-round pick, Jalen Travis. They wanted to come out of here with an offensive lineman. Jalen Travis of Iowa State by way of Princeton. Played left tackle last year at Iowa State. He's a tall guy who can bend his knees. He blocks with leverage. I project him to the right side, which I think is where he'll going to be. Don't be surprised if by the end of the 2025 season, Jalen Travis is the Colts starting right tackle.
Ooh, I like that. All right, let's go to the Jaguars, Tony, here. 9 picks for them. We talked about the trade-up for Travis Hunter. 2nd-round pick and a 1 next year to move up 3 spots. And they say they're going to use him maybe not full-time, but significantly on both sides of the ball. Then they have 2 third-round picks back-to-back, 88, 89. Caleb Ransall out of Tulane. That was a little bit early for me.
Yep.
And then Wyatt Millum out of West Virginia, who I thought was a really good pick at 89. I like that selection. Bayshell Tootin in round 4. Trevor Etienne's getting to the end of his rookie deal. They have Tank Bisbee. Tootin certainly gives him some big playability with some speed. Jack Kaiser in the 4th round out of Notre Dame. Good linebacker. Jalen McLeod, linebacker out of Auburn, round 6, with Rayon Lane out of Navy, the safety. And then Jonah Meinheim, the center out of USC, undersized player in round 7, with LaQuinn Allen, your guy, the running back out of Syracuse.
Interesting draft. I mean, we could talk about Travis Hunter all day. The price they paid for him was steep. He better pan out, because that trade is the one that, if it doesn't pan out, general managers and coaches get fired. I agree with you. Caleb Resnor is a size speed guy. Is he a nickel back? Is he a dime back? Is he a safety? He's got upside, but you got to develop him.
Not very big either, smaller player.
Wyatt Millum, college tackle, projects to guard. He was terrific at guard at the Senior Bowl. I think that was good to solidify the interior of that offensive line. I agree with you about Tootin. Tootin and LaQuinn Allen kind of play off each other. Allen is a stronger pounder on the inside who is an exceptional pass catcher out of the backfield. Tootin has got tremendous speed, and he can turn the perimeter. One other guy I want to talk about here, Jack Kaiser. I think, Jack Kaiser's a smart guy. He's instinctive, and then he ran much faster than we thought.
Yeah. And he was good at the Senior Bowl, man.
And I mean, he's a 3-down guy to get him in the 4th round. It's interesting. They got some good players. Everyone's going to be focusing on that trade and Travis Hunter. But otherwise, they filled some need with solid players.
Yeah, and Kaiser's one of those guys that, 5 days after the national title game, he's in Mobile playing the Senior Bowl, which was great. And you get the sense, Tony, that the Jaguars and Liam Cohen wants to remake that running back room a little bit, with Etienne and Bigsby already there. And they've been good players for them. But adding Tootin and Allen, to your point, they do complement each other well. I almost feel like they're trying to remake that room. I wouldn't be surprised. You talk about like Dallas needing a running back. There was another team you mentioned that needed a running back. I wouldn't be surprised if Etienne or Bigsby at some point might get moved with the additions of those 2 rookies.
I'm surprised they didn't add a tight end, because as the reporting was,
they lost Evan Ingram. That's right.
When they cut him.
Yeah, right. Correct.
When it looked like the Jaguars were going to take Ashton Genty with that 5th pick, I had said the game plan was to go in and just add weapons for Trevor Lawrence, and that's exactly what they did. They also got up some help on the offensive line, so I was more surprised that they didn't look at the tight end position, especially later in the draft when guys like Aronde Gatson were available.
All right, let's go to the Titans here. 9 picks for them, Tony. Cam Ward, 1st overall. Your guy, Oluwafemi Oladejo, in round number 2. I thought he might get to round 3, but he has so much physical traits are off
and
the charts.
As well.
Yeah, smart kid, exactly. He goes in round 2. Kevin Winston Jr., the big physical safety out of Penn State in round 3. He had an ACL this year. Tremere Dyke, the wide receiver out of Florida, big size, big speed guy, tested really well. Gunnar Helm, I think that's a nice pick. The tight end out of Texas, at pick 120 in the 4th round. And then Alec Iamanor, Tony, the Stanford wide receiver, at pick 36. I thought those are some really good value selections there with weapons for Cam Ward. Jackson Slater, Sacramento State, 167. And then you have Marcus Harris and Khalil Mullings, the Cal and Michigan players.
Thought they did a good job all the way through. I thought Dyke was selected a little bit earlier. He does Wisconsin transfer, played at Florida last year, does have some return skills. Femi Oladeju, one of my favorites. I mean, a guy who, was an inside linebacker at UCLA, moved to outside linebacker, just destroyed everybody at the Senior Bowl. A smart guy, just an interesting guy to speak with. I had dinner with him. I texted him after he was selected. He's a really good guy, an easy guy to root for. Ayamanora, I think, is a Titans type of receiver, big-bodied, contested catch guy who's just got to improve his route running or expand his route running. And Jackson Slater, guard, can also play center. I thought that was good value in round 5.
You turned him into a menorah. That was pretty good.
Close, yeah.
All right, let's
Shove
go
home, right?
I know, exactly. Oh, to him for sure. After getting drafted, I thought it was a nice draft by the Titans. To be honest with you. And then word is, by the way, we'll get to the best undrafted players in a second. I think I saw last night that Xavier Restrepo is going there as an undrafted guy to repair with Cam Ward. That makes sense. Let's go to the AFC East. The Bills. Well, Tony, if they wanted to fix their defense, they certainly had enough players to try and do it.
They did.
First 5 picks on the defensive side of the ball: Maxwell Harrison, the speedster corner out of Kentucky; TJ Sanders, defensive tackle out of South Carolina; Landon Jackson, Arkansas edge player; Deion Walker, the gigantic interior defensive tackle; Jordan Hancock, cornerback out of Ohio State in round 5; Jackson Hall is a blocking tight end. I don't know how many tight ends the Bills think they need, with Kincaid and Knox already there. He's in round 5 as well. Dorian Strong, I thought that was pretty good value for him, the corner in round 6 out of Virginia Tech. Chase Lunt, the UConn offensive tackle in round 6, and then Caden Prather, the wide receiver out of Maryland in round 7.
A lot of good potential defensive players here. I like TJ Sanders a lot. And they would say, well, maybe they want to get help for Ed Oliver, but he's a lot like Ed Oliver. I mean, not the biggest guy in the world, but very explosive.
No, he's very similar to Ed Oliver, 100%. I'm with you, yeah.
So I don't understand if they wanted to get help for him, why'd they draft the same type of guy? Although they did come back with Deion Walker in the 4th round. And if Deion Walker really can get his game back to where it was in 2023 and get to the level where people think he should be, then they hit a home run, and they got the help for Ed Oliver. I thought Landon Jackson in the 3rd round was phenomenal value, who definitely fits that system. I like the Hairston pick. I like the Dorian Strong pick, as you also pointed out. A bigger cornerback who really fits the mold of what the type of defense the Bills play.
Hey, look, we talked about the Chiefs, right? But these better teams like the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Eagles, these are good teams. Yeah. You're not going to have premium picks. You have to re-sign your own players. You're not going to have a ton of money to spend in free agency. You got to hit your draft picks. And I thought some of those teams on the top of the league did a really nice job with the picks that they had, trying to reinforce their rosters this year. All right, let's go to the Dolphins. I'm sure Giant fans don't want to hear that. I'm sorry, folks, but it's true. Giants did really well too, but so did the Eagles. All right, and I thought the other NFC East teams actually had pretty good drafts as well. All right, let's go to the Dolphins. 8 picks. 13th overall, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan. 37th overall in the 2nd round, Jonas Savaiinaea out of Arizona. Played tackle there, probably is going to be a guard. I like the Jordan Phillips value in round 5, a really good interior defensive lineman. Not a lot of pass rush production in college, but he has the juice and he's good against the run. Jason Marshall, cornerback out of Florida. Dante Trader Jr., safety out of Maryland. He had a nice Senior Bowl when we were down there. Ollie Gordon, very un-Dolphins-y, like running back. They have the 2 speed guys, but I think he really complements what they have well. Love the Quinn Ewers pick in round 7, Tony, where he can sit behind Tua, learn with a good offensive coach in Mike McDaniels, and we know Tua has some injury issues, so he might get into a game this year. And then Zeke Biggers, the defensive tackle out of Georgia Tech.
The only pick selection I question here is Jason Marshall, Florida, in the 5th round. I mean, he was more bark than bite. He's got the size and speed, but the production wasn't there, and he was up and down. Kenneth Grant, I had him going to the Dolphins early in my early mock drafts. I think him and Jordan Phillips, that's 2 terrific guys that fill in the center of that defensive line that's been hurting since they lost Christian Wilkins 2 years ago. Savaiinaea is a terrific punching him out type of lineman. I like Dante Trader. Dante Trader is a great football player. He's a terrific athlete who was an outstanding lacrosse player. He just doesn't test all that well, which is why he fell. And then Quinn Ewers, who could be one of the biggest bargains of the draft when he went in the 7th round. I kept saying 6th round, but 7th round, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think good players there. All right, Patriots, Tony, 11 picks. A lot of picks for New England, 3 in the 7th round. Let's go through them real quick. Patriots, Will Campbell, 4th overall. Travion Henderson, good value at 38. Him and Arondre Stevenson are going to be a nice Thunder and Lightning combination at running back. Yep. Kyle Williams, they finally get their wide receiver at 69. I think he'll be a good player for them at wide receiver with Stephon Diggs. Jared Wilson, potential future starting center. So you get a left tackle, you get a center in the same draft out of Georgia. A couple 4th-round picks. Craig Woodson at a Cal. Good ball production, good player. Joshua Farmer, good defensive tackle out of Florida State. Braden Swinson, I thought 5th round. That's good value out of LSU. Good football player as an edge. Andres Borregales out of Miami, the kicker. And in 6th round, and in 7th round picks, tackle Marcus Bryant, long snapper Julian Ashby, and then Kobe Minor, the cornerback out of Memphis.
This was my favorite draft.
Because I like it.
They got good players, and they filled a lot of holes. Will Campbell was probably the most pure left tackle, pass-blocking left tackle in this year's draft. John and I talked about him ad nauseum during the season. You know, if you get the Will Campbell late in the second half of the LSU season, you have a Pro Bowl type of left tackle or Pro Bowl tackle type of tackle in the making. You mentioned it with Travion Henderson, taking him in the 2nd round, works well with Ramondre Stevenson, home run hitting type of ball carrier. Kyle Williams, great route runner, polished. You know, the Patriots have a history of drafting receivers that go nowhere. Hopefully, Kyle Williams breaks that curse. Jared Wilson, potential starter down the road. I think he's a better athlete than he is football player, but he's got some upside. Craig Woodson, a hard-hitting safety. And Joshua Farmer in the 4th round. I had him going in the 3rd round in my mock draft, surprising to the New York Giants. He fell in the 4th round because of injury concerns, but he's got size. He's explosive. He's starting to hit his stride. So again, and even Braden Swinson, you got a situational pass rusher. So I think with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks, the first 7 picks, and even the kicker, 8 picks. I mean, these are guys that are not only going to be on the Patriots roster in 2025, but playing big roles.
Throw in the long snapper, who I'm sure
there you go.
There you go. Multiple special teams impact players there. All right, final team here, Tony. The New York Jets. Armand Membo at 7th overall. They right tackle him and Olu Fashanu now can be bookends for a long time.
Yep.
Mason Taylor at 42. That's right where I think most people had him. Maybe a little bit later. Some people had him end of the 1st round. Good all-around tight end. No wow-me skills, but he's better than average and good at everything that he does. Azare Thomas, the big bump and run cornerback that dropped all the way to 73. Some people had him as a late 1, so I think the Jets should be happy to get him at the start of the 3rd round. 2 4th-round picks, Arian Smith, the speedster that has trouble catching the ball out of Georgia. Malachi Moore out of Alabama, the safety. And then 2 5th-round picks, Francisco Mayaga. Do you have any idea to pronounce that one?
Maui Goa?
Sure. And then
look, it's Maui and Goa, right?
Yeah, I guess it kind of is. And then in pick 176, Tyler Barron, the defensive end out of Miami. Break down the Jets for me, Tone.
I knew for a month, I said Armand Membo was the player that they wanted. I love him. I think he could be the best offensive lineman to come from this draft. He's a terrific, dominant right tackle prospect who's an outstanding athlete. The combine was great. The tape was even better the past 2 years. Doesn't have the great length that you maybe want in a right tackle, but the playing style is there. Mason Taylor, if you follow me on Twitter, I said a couple hours before the draft, this was the guy that they were targeting around 2. There was some question as to whether or not he was going to be there. He fell to them. As John said, he's good in all areas. He's not spectacular. He's not a down-the-field type of receiver like a Roy is. He's not a Jackson Hawes type of blocker, but he's good in all areas. He's got great bloodlines, of course, with his father, Jason Taylor. Azariah Thomas, the reason he fell was because he ran 4.58 at Pro Day, and he couldn't run fast. But he's someone who showed consistent development in his game. I thought he was terrific at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, like though it's funny, we saw the lack of speed at the Senior Bowl. When he guarded Tez Johnson, who also ran poorly at the 40-yard line.
That's not good. Malachi Moore, small but smart and instinctive. the type of defensive back that Aaron Glenn had success with in Detroit, guy by the name of Brian Branch. Yeah, Malachi Moore is not the same, but he's the same type of athlete or at that level, but he's the same type of player. Tyler Barron in the 5th round could be a steal for the Jets. He is an outstanding defensive end, a terrific pass rusher. He tested off the charts. The problem is the motor isn't always running. So if they're able to get Tyler Barron to play the way he's capable of each and every down, they hit a home run in the 5th round.
All right, Tony, let's do a couple superlatives here. Let's do who are your favorite value picks in the draft this year, and then we'll hit your favorite players that you have left. Who are your favorite value picks in the draft?
Well, let's talk about, the 2 quarterbacks. Quinn Ewers going in the 7th round, Shedeur Sanders going in the 5th round. Those were outstanding. I thought Marcus Bowe of the Giants going in the 5th round was a great value. Ty Robinson, one of my personal favorites, going to the Eagles in round 4. I thought it was an outstanding selection. Damian Martinez in the 7th round by the Seattle Seahawks. Sorry about that, losing my voice. Was great value. I mentioned Maynor to the Titans in the 4th round. Danny Stutzman to the Saints in round 4. Oronde Gadsden to the Chargers in the 5th round. I had Gadsden rated higher than most. The former receiver who moved to tight end. John and I saw him at the Shrine Bowl at 247 pounds, and he didn't miss a beat. He was easily moving about the field. He's a great pass catcher. And then Dorian Strong, as I mentioned earlier, in the 6th round by the Buffalo Bills, fits the physical prototype that they want. He's a decent athlete. He shows terrific ball skills. How in the heck he fell to the 6th round is beyond me. But I think the Bills got a terrific cornerback there.
Yeah, and then Damian Martinez, you mentioned in round 7. I think that's just great value to the Seahawks. And he's behind a couple of good young running backs there, but they'll figure out a way to get him on the field. He's a really, really good player. All right, and then finally, Tony, of the undrafted folks, so we better wrap up here before your larynx falls out of your throat here. Who are your favorite undrafted guys, and we'll see where it becomes official these guys sign over the next couple of weeks.
2 cornerbacks, Kobe Bryant from Kansas, who we saw at the Shrine Bowl.
He was great.
He was great, but he wouldn't shut up, so that may be an issue. I mean, he's a terrific cornerback. He's very feisty. May have turned some people off. Zy Alexander, not the fastest guy in the world, came from a small school. I thought he played terrific last year at LSU. Joshua Simon, I'm shocked he didn't get drafted. Joshua Simon's one of those move tight ends, get down the field, catch the ball, needs work on his game, but a developmental prospect. Jamon Dumas-Johnson had some off-the-field character flaws, if you want to say, that turn people off, but still, 6'1", 240 pounds. He's a tough punch-in-the-face linebacker. We saw him at the Shrine Bowl, made some nice plays in coverage.
I talked to him down there, too. Really nice kid.
He is.
Yeah, smart
he is.
kid.
I think people have the wrong perception of him. One of the first things he did when he got his NIL money was buy his mom a home. But he came from a tough background. He came from a tough place. And it just maybe the perception was wrong. I love Andrew Armstrong. Isaac Tesla went in the 3rd round.
I couldn't believe Andrew Armstrong didn't get taken.
Especially after he ran 4.45.
I know. I couldn't believe it.
And the production. Jared Ivey of Mississippi. Justin Barron, who signed with, I tweeted out last night, I forgot.
And I think Andrew Armstrong signed with the Dolphins, or at least that's what the report is,
okay.
which would be a nice spot for him.
And Clay Webb, I mean, he's a guy who did very well in the lead up to the draft.
Some off the field stuff with him.
Yeah, exactly. Got to keep the lid on it there. Clay Webb, I mean, he's got some upside. He did really well at the Senior Bowls we saw.
He did.
And he had a decent combine.
Yeah, so a lot of good names still out there for this UDFA class. Tony, this was fun. Yes. We're going to have one more podcast next week. Appreciate it. And next week, Tony, you better start working on it. He's going to have his watch. We'll call it I'm just going to call it his watch list for 2026. So if people out there, like me, need to do some summer scouting, I'll walk off Tony's. Want to do 30? Think you can get me 30 guys?
Oh, give me more 30? Than that.
All right. Give me however many you want to give me.
Yeah.
So break that down, however you want to do it.
I know we're going to talk about a lot about the quarterbacks because everyone's talking about what a great quarterback class is, and we'll get into that.
I think they have some work to do before it's a great quarterback class.
I would agree with you.
So we'll see how that goes. We'll talk about the other positions as well. Break it down however you want. You want to break it down all together, do position by position, however you want to do it, Tony. We are a slave to your draft genius.
There we go.
All right, that's all the time we have here on draft season on part 2 of our draft review, looking at the AFC and some of our draft superlatives as well. It was brought to you by Moody's, a proud partner of the New York Giants, uniting the brightest minds to turn today's risks into tomorrow's opportunities. Learn more at Moody's.com. We loved having Tony in the Hackensack Meridian Health podcast studio. Keep getting better. Now he goes away into his hole. We're not going to see him in person again for a year.
Ugh.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you next week, Tom.
I'm actually going to the city tomorrow to walk around just to get out of my office.
I like it.
There you go.
Very good. And I'm going to...
After I cut my lawn today.
And we were recording this on Sunday. I'm going to go watch the Knicks hopefully beat the Pistons in Game 4 of their playoff series. For Tony Pauline, I'm John Schmeelk. We'll see you next week for one more draft season before we take 3 months off and enjoy life a little bit. Until then.